So, Richard, welcome to the Restore podcast with me, Owen Walker. Richard, we've been trying to lock this down for a while. Glad to finally chat to you, really. And so, do you just want to describe for listeners and viewers just who you are, what you're about, and just a little bit of background on yourself?
You know what? When everyone says that, it's like, Christ, what do you say? Where do you? But I suppose go on. So I obviously my name's Richard. I started a business in healthcare, 2009, and then been running that business since then. But at the same time, I suppose you're carrying all your life problems and mental health or whatever, but with you. But then on 2013, I went on Dragon's Den, which was that BBC show. And that's been my life, really. Yeah, raising two children and trying to run a company. Yeah, and all the trials and tribulations. Yeah.
Yeah. So the company, Richard, is so the company. If you just want to describe the company a little bit, what your target audience is, and then just also, if possible, just sort of some of the things you've learned since you were on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, so I went into the dementia field. So in 2009, I had an idea for a product. It was actually a dream, and I wasn't in dementia. I'd never heard of dementia before. And I went to take my old neighbour to see his wife at a care home, and that's my first. So something came from there. I had this idea, and then so I started doing pop-up therapy spaces. So I created like a 1950s lounge. So it was the idea of people with Reminiscence. A lot of people with dementia can't remember now, but they can remember the past. So I created these pop-up scenes, and we still do, but I used to buy all the old TVs, and I used to make them work, and and it was a place where people could sit, and it was like being back in their lounge, just for a little while, just to try and calm people down, really. So I started that with one pod, and I think in my first couple of weeks, I'd already sold like 8 of them. And it was like, oh shit, I've got to make this product now, because I kind of did everything that you shouldn't do, because I just went for it and borrowed money. And then we've grown. So our market is the NHS and care homes, but we've gone into mental health wards now, all sorts, a lot of counselling spaces, and it's all about decorating spaces now, trying to make people feel calmer, really, if you can, as much as possible. So we make kind of fake fish tanks, which are where they've got a fish tank, a screen inside, and all sorts now. It's changed so much.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Richard. How you describe being able to identify and link with previous or old cognitive linkages in the from a dementia perspective, because an interesting facet of the pathology of dementia, I think, is the fact that actually old neural pathways persist, or indeed sort of survive, where the newer neural pathways seem to be denigrated and deteriorate quite quickly. So one of the facets about dementia is that you might not be able to remember what you had for breakfast, or indeed facial recognition. But then, like you were saying, actually the audio-visual sensation of something you experienced 40, 50 years ago can really reignite previous neural pathways, and you've seen that it sounds like to really good effect.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started going into care homes, people thought I was mad. So I know things have changed there, but 10 years ago, I remember starting up my business, going into a care home, and I remember the staff there. I still remember this nurse. She nearly wet herself laughing. She thought I was absolutely mental. And I had to deal with a lot of that, because it was very new age what I was trying to do. But as soon as I set up my first pod, I remember it so vivid. I remember I was someone's son, and this woman thought I was her son. And it was, back then people were very much like, you need to tell her you're not, but I was very much, I'll go with it. So for 10 minutes, I'll be that person, because they will forget and they'll move on to something else. So I knew I had something, definitely. And I knew it was amazing. Yeah, back like now I don't get to see that as much anymore. So I'm normally in an office, but yeah, every time I'd go to a care home to deliver, I would end up crying. Honestly, it was beautiful. It was Yeah, it was real life changing. I knew it was something. You know, you knew that you had a good product there. Yeah.
So Richard, now just to explain for viewers, just how, you know, where you've grown it to, where you are right now, as in how many domains are you operating in, and sort of how many, you mentioned a little bit about who you deliver to, but sort of how has the product grown and developed since its inception?
So it's when I first started, I was very just pods, and so I was doing care homes. But then I started getting interest from the NHS, and I'm very much, when I first started, I did everything. If someone asked me if I did something, I did it. Do you know? So I remember the NHS. So I started to supply to the NHS, but then they said, "Do you do room decoration?" And I said, "Yeah, we do room. Yeah, I've done. You know, I went and I did my first room decoration, and we did a garden room, and it was amazing. And so from then, I learned a lot from that, and that kind of developed. So then we went more into decoration. And we do ambulances up now, which is you know, where an ambulance is sometimes your first point of call for someone with dementia. So we've worked with a couple of NHS trusts, and we make that ambulance as less like an alien ship, you know, when you're being pulled into there, as possible. So we do like memory boxes, sounds. We hide the window, you know, try and make that window a more calming view. Yeah, we're changing quite a lot. We've got our core business, which is decoration and our pop-up products that we sell. But we're still growing. Yeah, it's still, so we get asked to do like well, it's stopped now, but last month I've got to do a quote for a counselling room for children and things like that. So we're constantly evolving at the moment.
It's interesting, actually, as you say, you know, it extrapolates to any, it sounds like to any environment really. And what you're appealing to is the audiovisual part of our brains, which is actually quite a fundamental and old part of our brains. But every age range, actually, it doesn't need to be necessarily old people, does it? Even young people.
Yeah, I'd still, you know, with Reminiscence, I still have a good old cry, you know, when you think about things and moments. And you know, sometimes I'd love to create my old lounge when I was 8 years old. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If I have the time, I'd love that. So I think Reminiscence is so powerful, and we've not really, you know, like for years I didn't really understand about smells, and really we use a lot of smells now because they're the quickest way to get a memory. And it's amazing where we're pumping out smells as well. And, you know, it's, and sounds. We're trying to hit all the senses, really. Yeah.
So it's really interesting you say that, because as a paramedic, a critical care paramedic, I go to quite a lot of cardiac arrest and have to deliver some horrendous information to but what people remember, Richard, is they remember the smells, the sounds, and they remember visually. So we all drop cognitive anchors in life. And what a cognitive anchor is really a memory of something which was happening when they might have heard a very significant life-changing event. So actually, for me or you, we'll hear a bit of music, and it might take us right back to a certain time, or quite rightly, as you say, you might smell a certain smell, and it triggers a memory. And quite often when I'm breaking bad news, I'm acutely aware of the fact that it will. That people will remember that information for the rest of their lives, but they'll also remember, the brain goes onto an automatic record mode, and they record everything in about that. So everything they'd heard that day, everything they'd smelled that day, how everything they were sort of the touch sensation from that day. And, you know, and so it's not only really important how you deliver that message, but these kind of meta programs that we run every day. But actually, when you have a significant life event, the brain automatically starts to record this. And because I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, Richard, I'm not too sure whether you can. But when you have a significant life event, your brain automatically records it, and you can go right back to that day, to how you were feeling, to where you were, to what the music was playing, to what senses, what was happening with your senses. And it's weird and quite bizarre as to how our memories are stored.
It's mad, isn't it? Actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's very unique, and I think that your products really do bring that out in probably the best of ways. Actually, mate, it sounds like it's really bringing people back into reigniting them their true selves. Certainly within dementia, bringing back their real self, which is what people would want to remember. No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So Richard, just looking a little bit back in time and just sort of bringing you back to a fond memory or not, looking at the Dragon's Den experience. Did you go into that with a lot of sort of nervousness and apprehension, or was it more of were you just more seeing it as a challenge?
You know what? It's funny, the old Dragon's Den, because like, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I first started off, I never had a business, but I always wanted to go on Dragon's Den. I don't know why, because it's a TV show. And I set up in 2009, and I was having a great time. Like, I was working really hard. I'd never had money. So I didn't come from money. And suddenly we had enough money to buy a house, to get on the mortgage. And I could finally get a nicer car, all these things. And really, I should have stayed like that. And but it was really hard, but there was an ego. So for me, because I'd left school very young, I'd always had this thing that everyone thought I was stupid, and I felt like I was always battling to prove everyone. So for me, going on the Dragon's Den was to show the world that look at me. I wasn't that kid at school that was told I wasn't going to amount to much. So it was a funny thing. So I was going on that show, and I would have taken anything just to have won. So yeah, because it was, I couldn't get money. So I had a profitable business, but no one would give me any money. I think I had like a £2,000 overdraft from the bank, and no one would touch me, because it was like, with the Northern, all the crisis back in 2008 with the banks. So I did want to get money to invest. So it was a bit of that as well. And it was, but it took me 2 years to get on the show. You have to do a lot of interviews, and then they turned me down the first time. And then the following year I came back. But yeah, getting on the show was a very surreal thing. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was, you're so nervous. You really are. You're incredible. You have to stay in this room the whole day, and you can't go, and they have to stay with you. And what you don't realize, there's people in that room, and there's so many egos. So you've got people that are going to go on the show, but instead of everyone being in the same boat, it's really like, I remember one guy, he was so nasty. He was putting everyone down, and we're all waiting to go on, and it was just a bloody, I think I went on like the last day, or the last before the end of the day. Yeah. And I was shaking and everything, really. Yeah. It was not it was harsh, because I was on there 3 hours, but they edit it so, down to 15, didn't they? Bloody hell, yeah.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah. So did you get a rocky road? Because you did get investment, didn't you? Who invested in the company?
So I got Peter and Deborah. And it was, that Duncan guy was really tough. I first started talking, and he was laying into me. But I feel like with that show, I was never. So I did what you meant to do. I went on there, had all my figures, and I edited away. But because I didn't really have much of a personality, because I was so nervous, for me, it's very like, we never get asked to come back. All these things, like where we've got a good business and I'm still going, but we never get asked to do the specials and all that. It's because I was a bit, I suppose it's quite boring. It was very, I should have cried. I should have given more of a story, I suppose. But for me, I was just so nervous.
Yeah.
I couldn't really be myself. Yeah. Damn.
But you got the investment at the end of the day, which is what counts, and it helped you to grow the business. So are you still in business with them today? Do you still report to them today, or?
Yeah, it's funny. So I see Deborah, who's brilliant, and then Peter Jones has got a guy called John, and it's amazing the help you get. So like, as all this mess that's going on at the moment, you've got legal help, you've got that help. And if you listen to John, you're going to be okay. If I've got something to ask him, that's the brilliant side of it all, really. And it has given us credibility, really. And just that, we grew from me. We've got, I think there's about 9 of us now. And yeah. So it's changed, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had to change as well, yeah.
Yeah. In a good way, in a positive way.
God, I don't know if you're. I think I changed for the worse. So I lost myself. I got I went on that show, and then afterwards, I got an ego, you know, and I got obsessed with money, and I got obsessed with making people show, you know, I liked a nice car, and I wanted people to know how great I was. And I'm literally, I was talking to someone the other day. I'm trying to find myself who I was 9 years ago, because that person was a nicer person. You know, I've been through the shouting at people. Yeah, it's been a long old. I mean, now when you've got time on your hands, you realise and what you appreciate. You know, I didn't appreciate being there with my kids. I mean, I used to work on Christmas Day. You know, I would work, and my little children running around, and I'm in the room with them, but I'm thinking about work and all those things that I can't get back now. You know, all those. Yeah, so that's a funny one, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So I think what, you know, certainly what you're articulating well, Richard, is that actually there's a whole new set of challenges when you hit success, and when you hit when success, the door opens, and almost those challenges are almost unseen beforehand. And I mean, so you're just saying things that I have to actually physically deal with as well, which is the temptation. I had to work last Christmas Day, and I had to work Boxing Day, work Christmas Eve. I worked all through Christmas and New Year's. And actually, sometimes interestingly, the temptation isn't not to work; it's to overwork. And the real dichotomy is knowing when to not work. And that's an interesting one, actually, isn't it? Because especially when you've got your own business, I can imagine it's difficult.
I've always, and I've still got that issue now. I feel like if I don't stay up till 2 o'clock every night, I'm a failure. and I love, and I'll be honest with you, I used to love staying up to 2 o'clock at night, and I felt great. I had this energy. I'd had the TV on, and I'm working, and I'm getting stuff done when everyone else is asleep, you know. But you do burn out, and I have burnt out, you know, and you realise, was that good? You know, I don't know. It's a funny one, yeah.
Yeah. Have you so on your journey, Richard? Have you learned to position people around you that will maybe be a bit more of a litmus test, or indeed a sort of a stopgap, and sort of stop you from working too hard or too much, or indeed kind of just or give you a little bit of feedback? Have you managed to get people around you that give you that feedback, albeit colleagues and or friends or family?
Well, I think it's a funny one, because I lost a lot of friends because I didn't go to weddings, and I mean, I got asked to go to one of my best friend's wedding, and I didn't turn up. I didn't even say, you know, in my brain, I'm too busy for you guys, you know, and that's a very thing now where I'm very isolated there, and it's my own doing. Last year I had a massive life change, so I became a full-time parent of my two children, so I couldn't work as much, and my business suffered in a way. But boy, did I realise what was important, and that was doing the school run and these little things that we think are beneath us, you know, which I think are amazing. You know, my ideas of what I class as success now and successful people are